when I say make an equation of a line, still think y equals mx plus b, because that's what we're used to. That's what we know. That's your slope-intercept form, which makes sense because m is slope, b is your y-intercept. Okay? Standard form. So if you look at the notes right there, it says ax plus by equals c. Now, do I love that they use the letters? Not really, okay? Because sometimes that seems to confuse everyone. That shouldn't confuse you at all, okay? A, B, and C are all just numbers. That's literally all that they mean, is just a number in front of X, a number in front of Y, and then C is just a regular number. Okay, so standard form, what you need to take away from there is that all of your X's and Y's are on one side and your numbers on the other. In addition to that, your A and your B, so the number in front of the X, the number in front of the Y, are both integers. Now, if you can't remember what an integer means, that just means that it's a positive or negative number without a decimal. Okay, so I can't have fractions, can't have decimals. Okay, and then one last thing, the number in front of the X, which is the A, has to be positive. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to do examples. We're going to take that slope-intercept form and we're going to turn it into standard form. We're going to move things around, get rid of fractions in order to get the standard form. Okay, after you're done with the standard form, I have a quizzes assigned to you for today. I hope you didn't do it yet because you wouldn't have been able to because you didn't know how to do this material yet. So let's take a look at some examples. So this is given to me in that y-intercept form, and I want to make it into standard form. So I want all of my x's and y's on one side. I don't want fractions. And then in front of that x, I have to have that positive number. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is get rid of all the fractions. And usually you guys are very happy about that because you guys don't enjoy fractions. Okay, so we want to get rid of them. The best way to do that is to ask yourself, what would be the common denominator between the fractions? So common denominator is the smallest number that, the smallest biggest number that both of them go into. Well, the smallest biggest number that both of them go into would be 10. That common denominator would be 10. So therefore, that is what I'm going to multiply that equation by. I'm going to multiply it by 10 on every single thing. Okay, this is to get rid of the fractions. So I have to take 10 times y. Well, that gives me 10y. Okay, now I have to take this 7/10 times 10. Now, this is when you guys say you don't like it, but remember, I did teach you a couple different ways to do this in class. I said you can take your top number, your numerator, times the 10, so 7 times 10 is 70, and then divide it by your denominator, which is 10, so 70 divided by 10 is 7. That's one way to think about it. Now, the other way to think about it is, what's 7/10 of 10? If you have 10 items and you need to split it between, you know, like that's like what we're talking about. 7/10 of it, of the 10 would be 7. Okay. Another way to think about it is, if that's my common denominator, how do I get from 10 to 10? Well, I'm already there. So don't change that numerator, leave it alone. Okay. And don't forget you have an X on there. Now, you have to pick which way made the most sense to you. How do I get from 5 to 10? I multiply by 2. So take your numerator times 2. So 4 times 2 is 8. Now, if that didn't make sense to you, take 4 times 10, 40, divided by 5 is 8. Or you can think of what's 4/5 of 10. Okay. That's just to get rid of the fractions. Now we need to get all of our x's on one, all our x's and y's on one side and our numbers on the other. Well, I see y over here. So I'm going to actually take this 7x and move it over. So in order to move it, I have to subtract it, because if it's going over that equal sign, I got to do the opposite. Whatever I do to one side of my equation, I have to do to my other. So that's now gone. Okay. So now I have, and I'm going to write the x first. I'm going to write negative 7x plus 10y, because I can't put those together, equals 8. So I'm on the right track. I got my x's and y's on one side. I don't have any fractions. But now that one last stipulation, x has to be positive. Unfortunately, it's negative right now. So if I wanted to make that a positive, what I could do, I could think of it two different ways. I could think of it as multiplying by -1. So if I took everything and multiplied by -1, okay? If I'm multiplying by -1, the same thing is just changing all the signs. So if I multiply that, that becomes a positive 7x. -1 times 10 becomes a negative 10y. And -1 times 8 becomes a negative 8. Now, did I have to write that multiplying step, or could I have just went straight from here to here? I sure could have. If you change every single sign in the equation, then it doesn't change the value of the equation. Okay, so negative went to positive, positive went to negative, positive went to negative. Now, all my x's and y's are on one side, no fractions, and the number in front of my x is positive. So we are done. Okay. We're going to keep trying. We're going to keep doing some more. Number 3, again, look for that common denominator. So the smallest, biggest number that they both go into, smallest big number that they both go into, well, in this case, it's 10. So I'm going to multiply everything by 10 so I can get rid of those fractions. 10 times y gives me 10y. Okay. How do I get from 5 to 10? I multiply by 2, so I have to multiply this numerator by 2. -2 times 2 is -4x. Don't forget there's an x on there. How do I get from 10 to 10? Well, I'm already there, so leave the numerator alone. So it's just +3. Okay, I'm getting there. No fractions. Now I'm going to need to get all my x's and y's to one side. So I'm going to add that 4x over. I can't put y's and x's together. They're not like terms. So I'm just going to rewrite it. I have 4x plus 10y equals 3. Okay, so now check. Are all my x's and y's on one side? Do I have any fractions? So that's good. And is the number in front of my x positive? Well, this one already is. I don't even have to do anymore. So that's the standard form of that equation, of that line. Okay. Let's try the next one. The common denominator here would be 7. Okay, because they're both sevenths, so the common denominator would be 7. Okay, so I'm going to multiply everything by 7. 7 times y gives me 7y. Okay, you can either think of it, what's -3/7 times 7, or I always look at it, if I'm going from 7 to 7, I'm already there. I'm going to leave that numerator alone. So -3x. How do I get from 7 to 7? Well, I'm already there. I'm going to leave that alone. So -4. Okay, get all my x's and y's to one side. So I'm going to add that 3x over. I can't put those together. Those are not like terms. So I'm going to write the x first. I have 3x plus 7y equals, what was on this side? -4. All my x's and y's are on one side. There are no fractions, and the number in front of the x is positive. Okay, let's try number 7. What's the common denominator here? When it's only one fraction, it's very easy to find out. You just take that denominator. Well, the common one would be 6. So I'm going to multiply everything by 6. Okay, 6 times y gives me 6y. Now remember, that's like a -1 in front of that x. So I have 6 times -1, which is going to get me -6x. Now you can think of this, what's 1/6 of 6? You could think of it as 1 times 6 divided by 6. Or you can think of, how do I get from 6 to 6? Well, I'm already there, so I'm just going to leave that alone. Get all my x's and y's on one side. So I'm going to add that 6x over. Okay, can't put those together. Those are not like terms. I'm going to write the x first. I'm going to have a 6x plus 6y equals 1. Check. Are all your x's and y's on one side? Yes. Is there any fractions? No. So that's good. Is there any, is that positive in front of the x? Sure is. So this one is done. I want you to try number 9 on your own right now, and then I will continue in a minute. So try number 9 on your own. So I tried to stay quiet during that time. If you look up, I did work it out. You might have seen it on your screen when you were working on this on your own. Okay, my common denominator was 5, so I multiplied everything by 5. Ended up with the 5y equals 2x minus 2. Brought my x over. Okay, got all my x's and y's on one side, but this one was negative, so I switched all the signs. Okay, we'll try another one. Try this number 2 here. Common denominator would be 5 multiplied by 5. So 5y equals negative 4x minus 5. Bring that x over. I can't put y's and x's together, so I'm going to write the x first, 4x, because it's positive, so I'm going to put the 4x there. And then that's a positive 5y, so I'm going to put plus 5y equals whatever's on this side, negative 5. X and y's are on one side. There are no fractions, and that x is positive. Oh, okay.